Okay. Well, Joe Kroog here. We're going to present, Ian Carmichael and myself are going to present some information that you should know about new TV and Wi-Fi solutions that are ready and available for everyone within Village Co-op today. Special thanks for Kevin organizing everything and bringing us into the community there. Kevin, you've been a great advocate and you're certainly a tech expert. So talking through these things is incredibly easy. We'll get started with some logistics here. And as we go through this, couple minutes for introductions. I'll spend the next 15 minutes talking about TV and then turn it over to my colleague here, Ian, who will talk about Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi 6 and what that means. And then we should still have about 15 minutes at the end for any open questions and certainly to be able to answer anything that comes up. You'll see that entirely we've planned for about 50 minutes today. So if for some reason we do need to go a little bit longer in Q&A, we'll be able to do that. So as part of the introductions, just some logistics to know. In your Zoom bar that you're kind of watching today's webcast on, some of you may be really comfortable with Zoom, given everything that we've gone through in the last couple of years. So as a friendly reminder, bottom left, you should have a mute button. You should be able to mute yourself and unmute as needed. Same holds true with video. So you should be able to stop and start your video just through that icon and clicking on that icon. If you do have any questions, we would like you to submit those questions using the chat panel, and you'll see that chat option, just in the kind of bottom right. And then lastly, as part of that, we'll keep an eye on the questions so that when we're done with the presentation, we'll take time to address those in order, starting with, the first questions that come in. If we get the same question twice, that's okay. So don't worry about submitting the same question twice. We'll kind of look and decipher that and help answer that. And then once again, this is being recorded and we'll make this available to everyone probably within a week or so. It takes a little while for the recording to process. We'll give it a good inspection and then we'll coordinate any distribution of that through Kevin. Our purpose, and this is a joint purpose here with Nextlight and StreamWise, but our purpose is to provide every resident within the Village Co-op community with the comfort of an enjoyable and maintenance-free experience. That applies to TV, that applies to Wi-Fi. Some of you may have heard about the partnership with Nextlight and StreamWise. Nextlight is your internet provider, your internet service provider, and provides incredible gig speeds, highly reliable up and down gig speeds for everybody there. And we're the TV solution provider that provides an enhanced solution for TV based on that internet solution. And we'll get into the details and the specifics of that. Some of the icons that you see down here at the bottom are representative of StreamWise solutions. We're a 5-star Google business. We're rated A+ in the BBB. We're a 5-star Facebook business and highly rated as a premier provider within HomeAdvisor. And we're a local Colorado company. We're located and headquartered right out of Lakewood, Colorado. So we're all about our local community. So a little bit more about this culmination of Nextlight and StreamWise. The the marketing that we've done and the information that we've shared is that your new home entertainment experience has arrived. In July, we launched jointly the offering of providing TV solutions to Nextlight customers. We've had an incredible success. Some of you may already be customers of this new combined solution. We know we've supported customers in various locations and now hundreds of customers throughout Longmont just within a few months. I'm Joe Kroog. You may see my video up in the top right of your corner. I'm Chief Marketing Officer for StreamWise Solutions, and along with me is our founder and CEO, Brian Cavanaugh. He is well beyond me in the technology and the expertise. So I'll present most of what we need to talk about in TV, but I've got Brian to support me should I need the extra help in answering any questions. And then also Ian Carmichael, you'll see him on video as the product marketing and distribution manager for Nextlight. And of course, Kevin, as our sponsor. Thank you, Kevin, for bringing us together today. So let's get into the TV solutions side of things. And I'd like to start by talking about TV consumption. TV consumption has changed dramatically in the last 10 years. Some of you, this may be second nature. You may even say this is old news. But what people want to watch has changed from just local broadcast and traditional cable channels to this whole new world of streaming. And so what you're seeing in the infographic here with Netflix now being the #1 preferred TV brand or the most watched TV brand in the US. Now, again, for some of you, this may come as a surprise. For some of you, not a surprise. One of the other important things that I want to point out here, and you'll see this on the next slide as well, but your local network channels, your local broadcast channels, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, PBS, these are still dominating what people watch and what people want to watch. And for some of you, that may be 80 to 90% of what you watch. For some of you, that may be 50% of what you watch. But those are definitely the preferences. And you can see a mix of other things in here, like Hulu. And one of the things to know about Hulu is that Hulu can either be a streaming service standalone with its own channels, or Hulu offers an integration with some live channels. And so Hulu's ranking here may be a little misleading because people that are subscribed to Hulu may be watching ABC on Hulu. You'll see Disney Plus on here, and they have very quickly rose into the top 10 just within the couple of years that Disney Plus has been launched. So as I mentioned, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and PBS. And one of the things that Village Co-op can benefit from is a master antenna that plugs probably right into your TV today. And for most people, that experience may be to see Netflix or Amazon Prime, or to get to cable channels that you have to switch inputs on the TV. And one of the things we're going to talk about is that we're here to share an integrated solution that uses the Nextlight internet to help provide that overall TV solution. Of course, you saw Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and Disney Plus are all the top preferred streaming services. And one of the things that we know from our customers is other channels like Hallmark and Lifetime and History and HGTV are are very popular channels to watch, but it gets a little bit confusing of how should you subscribe to those when you're dealing with a solution that's different from a traditional cable solution. And we'll talk about those as well. Now, I thought about doing a survey to ask everyone what you want to do. What do you want to watch out of TV, and what kind of experience do you want to get? I'll mention this later at the conclusion of the presentation again. And Kevin, I think you included this in your note, but both NextLight and StreamWise will be on site on December 10th. And on December 10th, we've allocated a couple hours to share a bit of a presentation, but we also plan to be able to do some demos and offer some time to do individual consultations on what do you want to get out of TV and what kind of experience do you want. But in the cable world, if you're subscribing to cable content through a provider like Comcast or Dish Network or DirecTV, you're getting at best what would be called 2-star service. You're tied to some annual contracts. Industry statistics show an average of a 9% price increase every year for the last 10 years from cable and satellite companies. You're paying for some equipment rental fees. You're forced into some prepackaged bundles with really no good explanation of why some things are included and why they're not. And you're probably dealing with multiple remotes. Or at best, my father-in-law lives in a community down here in Littleton, and you know, there's 35 buttons on the Comcast remote, and even though it'll turn on the TV, you still got to use another remote to switch devices and switch between inputs. And you know, for someone that's in their 80s, that's a lot to deal with. Instead, with the combination of NextLight and StreamWise solutions, StreamWise, as I mentioned earlier, is a 5-star Google reviewed business. Hundreds of reviews out there. We're a 5-star service company. In the world of combining over-the-air internet and streaming, with streaming services, there are no contracts. You can go month to month with many of them, and those streaming service providers will often discount if you want to pay annually, but there's no contracts. You can turn on and turn off those if you're on month-to-month contracts, minimal price increases. With StreamWise, we oriented our solution so that you own your equipment. And that's one of the most effective ways to save a lot of money on what you're doing for TV today. And in the world of streaming, as a complement to over-the-air channels that you get for free, there's countless options, and you're not forced into a bundle that is predefined, nor do you have somebody that's trying to force you into upgrading to a larger bundle. And with our solution and the equipment that we have, we center everything around one simple remote. And you'll see some of this detail here in just a moment. It's actually, ironically, the same remote that this guy is holding in the picture, but it's kind of hard to see. With StreamWise solutions, the other thing that we really want to make sure that we convey is that each of our TV solutions is personalized to you. And what we mean by personalized is that you're the priority. You're priority number one to us. We'll talk with you about what channels are important to you, what you're spending, how you're watching TV. Customers that add our solution, we do on-site training as you're using your new remote, and We show you how to get to everything and record on your DVR and get access to all of those recordings. Now, from talking to Kevin, it's probably better than 80 local network channels that the residents there in the Village Co-op community is getting over the air today. Again, you may or may not be taking advantage of that. That's a core important part of what StreamWise Solutions is based on. We want to make sure that you're taking advantage of the free stuff that the FCC has regulated stays free. And unlike with cable companies, they have to charge a rebroadcasting fee, and they charge regional sports fees, and they charge other kind of content fees that are often hidden into that bundle subscription. But when you work with StreamWise, you don't have to deal with those fees. And we can help you save money on streaming. One of the things that is often paramount for customers that are subscribing to multiple streaming services is overlap, and there may be overlap with the subscriptions that you have, and we can help to reduce your costs by knowing how to manage that overlap, and of course make sure that you get access all in an integrated way. The last thing to mention about StreamWise Solutions, hopefully I've piqued everyone's interest. That was really everything I wanted to cover within the StreamWise Solutions side of what we do with TV. StreamWise Solutions is a preferred solution by thousands of Coloradoans. We've been in business now for more than 11 years. And while the partnership with NextSlide is fairly recent, we've basically been serving up and down the Front Range for the past 11 years. In total, we guess that we've saved those thousands of Coloradoans close to $25 million on TV. And what we've been able to help them cut the cord, stop overpaying through cable or satellite, own their own equipment. And that savings is something that we identify as part of our consultations when we do TV consultations. So I'm going to turn it over to Ian. Ian's going to talk about Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi 6. Ian, I'll just run the slides here. If you want to just tell me next slides, sure. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks a lot. And thank you, everybody, for having us. And Kevin, thank you for putting this together. You know, I didn't have it in my notes, but I felt that I should probably add that, you know, we looked at the partnership with StreamWise Solutions to fill a gap that we saw in the marketplace. We made the decision a long time ago to not offer TV services. We had tried a couple different, or another partnership that did not work out. But the question that kept coming up from our customers was, how do you set up streaming? How do you cut the cord? And StreamWise Solutions is perfectly positioned to help our customers do that. They're the experts in that field, and so we're really excited to have them as a partner and as a resource for you all. Next slide, please, Joe. So a little bit about NextLight for those of you that are not originally from Longmont. You know, I always tell people that we are lucky to live in Longmont. We are one of the few municipalities in the country that has this fantastic network, this fast internet. In fact, we're one of the fastest ISPs in the country, little old Longmont. That it's kind of weird to say when you compare us to the Comcasts and the CenturyLinks and the Google Fibers out there, but we are up there with them as one of the fastest providers. In 2017, we were rated the fastest, and we've hovered up in like the top 3 over the years. The reason we exist is because of the citizens of Longmont. I actually work for the city of Longmont, part of the electric utility. And basically a ballot question was posed to the citizens of Longmont back in 2011. That passed. We went to them again. And in 2013, the bond issue passed, which allowed us to have the funding to build the network. In 2014, we started offering services to our first customers. I believe that was in November of 2014. I started with the city of Longmont in 2015. And we had a greater take rate than we ever expected. When we were doing the feasibility studies way back in the early 2000s, our consultant said that if you could get a 35% take rate, you guys would be doing really well. Well, the demand was overwhelming. I think within the first few years, we were at 52%. We're currently hovering right around 60% take rate. That's incredible. I have worked for other providers, other big providers. And when I go out into the community and I'm at community events, we have people coming up and they just tell us how much they love us. So when you work for the big providers, you typically don't get that. So next slide, please, Joe. So Joe had mentioned that I'm going to talk a little bit about Wi-Fi 6. We're really excited about Wi-Fi 6. It's a new experience and some new equipment that we started offering just recently, back in July of this year. Wi-Fi 6 is also known as 802.11ax. The previous version ahead of that was 802.11ac, and that was developed, I think, back in, Kevin can probably help me with this, I think it was developed back in 2013. But it just goes to show that technology was kind of old and outdated. So we're really excited to be able to offer Wi-Fi 6, the newest and best in Wi-Fi and whatnot. So that was developed in 2019. And it was really developed with the types of devices that are in people's homes today. So that's, your new iPhones, or Android phones, all of your connected devices. It was really developed with those things in mind. Next slide, please. So what does Wi-Fi 6 mean? It means better speeds. So previously 802.11ac routers could not provide a gig. So you sign up for a gig internet with Longmont, and you can get a gig, but you needed to be wired. You need to be wired from your router to your computer, to your PC. With 802.11ax, you can get pretty darn close to a gig over the air. And a lot of people didn't understand that. So the difference between a wired connection and a wireless connection. But 802.11ax is about 40% faster than the older version. And it also means that there's no more bandwidth wars. So if you have a household where maybe your husband or your wife is doing something and you're trying to do something at the same time, you can prioritize devices. So it was developed with the way that 802.11ax was developed with the way that people are using Wi-Fi today. Next slide, please. 802.11ax also not only means faster speeds, but it also means better coverage. The devices that we use, which is the GigaSpire U6, which is there's a picture of it in the corner there. It has 6 antennas. Our other device, which is the U4, it's a little bit smaller, has 4 antennas and provides a better signal both going up and down, actually 30% better over our previous models, or the AC routers. Next slide, please. Better efficiency. So, I had mentioned that it was 802.11ax or Wi-Fi 6 was developed with how people use internet today in mind. The older version wasn't really meant to handle a lot of devices, and we all know that almost everything is connected. You can get a washer and dryer that's connected to the internet, a refrigerator, a security system, a garage. At my home, I have a garage door and security cameras, and they're all Wi-Fi enabled and connected to my home network. So as you have more devices, you need a system that can handle all those things talking at the same time. And Wi-Fi 6 is able to do that and to help things run smoothly. You'll get the same great support. So, Wi-Fi 6 and one of the exciting things one of the things that we're happy about is that we're going to be able to provide an experience to you, the customer, and you don't have to be an expert in networking. Like I know Kevin is, because we've talked a lot about that. So you don't have to be a technical wizard, and you can let us set up everything for you. Next slide, please. And then to talk about the price, you'll get the same great support at a great price. The U6 GigaSpire runs for $12.95 a month, and it's really recommended for larger homes and maybe larger apartments that are multi-floor. I think in this situation at Village Co-op, our U4 GigaSpire would be perfectly capable of handling the coverage and the needs that you have, and that is $8.95 a month. And then if you have additional, or if you find that, and I'm going to go into this in some other slides, but if you have maybe a layout of a floor plan that maybe has a lot of interference building materials that's causing some Wi-Fi degradation, we can also pair a U4 as a mesh device. And to do that, that's only $4.95 to add that on. And that actually just propagates the signal better. You have another kind of almost like a repeater for your Wi-Fi signal throughout your home. Next slide, please. I included this mainly for you, Kevin, but and I'll talk about this at kind of a high level, but the basics of signal attenuation. It's important to understand that when you're setting up a Wi-Fi network in your home, there's material in your home that will cause interference, and there are devices in your home that will cause interference or basically attenuation. So when you get bored, we'll send this over to you. You guys can read through this. I'm not going to go through it. It's pretty high level. But actually, if you want to go to the next slide, Joe, and this probably is more relevant and easier to understand. But I was talking about building materials in your home. Each of these things that are listed on this list are things that can cause interference. The lower the number, the less amount of interference. The higher the number, the greater the interference. So as you look through the list, you'll look at marble, which you may have marble countertops in your kitchen. That causes an attenuation of 5 or a loss. So when Wi-Fi signals, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but they're measured in dBMs or decibel milliwatts, and the lower negative number that you have, the better signal you have. The higher negative number you have, the worse the signal is. So each of these is going to add to that signal loss, if that makes sense. So as an example, marble would add 5. So if I had a dBm of say -48, I would have to add 5 if I'm trying to send that signal through marble. Or a glass with a metal frame. Glass wall with a metal frame is 6. You can look at a metal door in a brick wall. That's looks like it's the highest at 12 to 13. But this is really to illustrate that when you are setting up your router in your home, you don't want to put it next or behind a sculpture that's maybe made out of metal, or behind a brick wall, or behind maybe your couch. You want to make sure that you're putting that somewhere in your home that's up high, maybe on a bookshelf or on a shelf on a wall. Next slide, please. So again, just to kind of touch on how to set up your home network, positioning is very important. You don't want to put your router on the floor. You want to put it up high so that signal can propagate throughout your home. You want to make sure that you're not putting it behind blocking materials like in a closet that that's maybe surrounded by a bunch of sheetrock or plaster is actually worse than sheetrock. You want to avoid obstacles like furniture or metal objects. And you want to make sure that you're minimizing interference from other devices and other networks within your community. And actually, the next slide kind of goes over that. Actually, no, I lied. It's the slide after that. We can skip to that. Yeah, so you can see that a microwave can cause interference. Cordless phones, a neighbor's wireless device, all of these things can cause issues. What, I talk about this, and if you're a techie type person, you may know about these things, but if you're not, and you choose our Wi-Fi 6 devices, we're going to help you troubleshoot those things. So we have our TSRs, our technical support reps, have the ability to look into your network and help you position those things. And when our experts come out to set up your devices, they're gonna make sure that we're positioning that router in an optimal place. I hope that answers everybody's questions, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ian. As always, every time we're doing something together, or even just sitting talking, I always learn something new. Thanks for that, and hopefully that was helpful for everyone. We do want to open it up to Q&A. Again, please submit any questions that you have through the chat. I'm going to start with some of those questions that were submitted at the beginning of the presentation, and we'll be able to address everything that's come in. If you would, please keep your phones muted, just to avoid any background noise as we're answering the questions. But please keep them coming in. First and foremost, the question that came in about DVR recording and how many hours can you record? And Brian, thanks for responding to that based on our core integrated box. That DVR recording is essentially a 1 terabyte device that offers 150 hours of HD recordings. It's been years that both Brian and I have had this installed in our house, and I don't think we're getting anywhere close to maxing out our DVR. It's incredibly easy to manage the local DVR recordings. But maybe one of the other things to point out is, depending on the solution, and depending on some of the streaming services that you are subscribing to, each streaming service has their own limitations into DVR or recording size and memory capacities, or the number of hours and limitations and so on. So as we do any sort of consultations with you and get an understanding of what might be the best solution for you, we're always aware of what those conditions are and where your content can get stored. But especially for anything over the air, OTA means over the air, all your local broadcast channels get recorded right onto the device, local into your room. The equipment that we use actually broadcasts that out through the same Wi-Fi signal that you're using within your unit. And what's so great about that is then what you're watching on the TV in the living room, or the TV in the bedroom, or the kitchen, or wherever you are within your unit, within the same network, you'd be able to watch that right from that DVR. The next question, and I think this is a good one for you, Ian. You already, I think, did a really good job of answering it, but Nextlight has those new routers, which you pointed out, the U4 and the U6 routers. Should we upgrade it with StreamWise? I think the simple answer is yes, because the importance of improved efficiency, improved integrity, the load balancing that happens with Wi-Fi 6, so that you don't have those degradation issues But maybe you can add to that, Ian. I know you.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you answered it very well, Joe, but basically in a nutshell, the new U4 and even the U6 routers provide much better coverage, which means that if you are working with StreamWise and you have an Amazon Fire Stick, you had a TV in your bedroom and you have another one in your spare bedroom and one in the living room, it's just going to provide a good signal to all of those devices and make sure that they're working at their optimal performance. So I would say yes. The good news is that, I think Kim asked this question, should we upgrade? The good news is that currently we're running a special. That special is you get your first month of rental for free. And but on top of that, you're going to get support from us. And with the new devices, our technical service reps have a better insight into helping you troubleshoot issues. And then we also have a Nextlight app and I'll go over that when we come out and meet on site, but that app can help you understand how your devices are connecting to your home network. So I would say that yes, it's a better piece of equipment all around. We've done a lot of testing and we've just seen really good performance out of these devices. Our network engineering group, which is very hard to please, they were very happy with the performance of these devices, and they're just much better. And those other devices, the 844G or E's that we have in the field, those have been in the field for about 8 years, and they've kind of reached their end of life. So this is a better solution all around.
Yeah, if I could add to that too, real quick. I mean,
Brian.
Yeah.
I do want to hear from you. Kevin, I know you had something to add as well. Did you want to do that before Brian speaks, Kevin?
Well, I just wanted to ask about if you have a Wi-Fi 6 router, don't the receiving devices need to be at that spec to take full advantage of that performance that Wi-Fi 6 offers?
So that's a great point, Kevin. So if you do want to realize gig speeds, you do need a Wi-Fi 6 capable device. However, even non-Wi-Fi 6 capable devices will see better performance as far as coverage and in speeds. They won't get the close to the gig speeds that a Wi-Fi 6 device would get, but it will get faster speeds than what they would see on an 802.11ac router.
Cool.
I think that was
Brian. Go. Oh.
But there's
Brian,
also,
go ahead.
There's two bands. So there's a 5 gigahertz band and a 2.5 gigahertz band. And these routers have an algorithm that will automatically allocate devices to whichever band works best. So as an example, in my home, I have a new iPhone 12 and my laptop, which is a Microsoft Surface laptop, is not Wi-Fi 6 capable. So it runs on the 2.5 gigahertz network, and this will seek out the 5 gigahertz network. So, and then you can also manually go in and force devices on the 2.5 gigahertz network as well. I hope that answers your question, Kevin.
Cool. Brian, go ahead. I know you had some thoughts to add too.
Yeah, no, it was right along those same lines. I mean, I think that was a really good question and really good explanation. I mean, we've been doing this for 11 years, and I can tell you from experience, because we basically help people along the whole Front Range, and unfortunately, everybody in Longmont's lucky to have the availability of Nextlight, but Comcast and Centrelink is the only option everywhere else, pretty much. So it's pretty painful. They don't have decent internet connections a lot of times. They certainly don't have gig speeds a lot of times, and they don't have, Wi-Fi 6 routers, and it makes a huge difference. I mean, I always tell people the router is the backbone. Everything in your life nowadays, for the most part, is more and more dependent. Alexas and streaming and just everything in life is dependent on your internet connection. So that's the backbone, is kind of your wireless router. And to what you guys were saying earlier, the other thing I was going to kind of piggyback on that with the original question of, should we upgrade it to help with StreamWise? Yes, 100% for sure, because there's kind of two, to not get too technical, there's kind of two pieces to it. There's obviously, well, really three. There's the speed coming in, which is obviously great. You have a gig or what have you for Nextlight. There's the router, which is pushing out the Wi-Fi signal, which is Wi-Fi 6, which is great. But to Kevin's question, you have to have a Wi-Fi receiver. So a lot of the smart TVs and streaming sticks and whatever else you might be using, the problem with those is they are old and clunky and just don't work the greatest. So we install the latest and greatest 4K Wi-Fi 6 streaming media players. So those will actually have a Wi-Fi 6 receiver in them. So it's going to give you a rock solid signal when it comes to streaming, as an example.
And while we're on the Wi-Fi 6 router and that specific topic, I know there was some kind of follow-on questions that we should probably go ahead and address right now. Yeah, the one question that came in was, how do I tell if a device is Wi-Fi 6 compatible? And I think you answered that. And I think the more important part of the answer is that you don't necessarily have to know whether the device is Wi-Fi 6 or not, because it's more about what bandwidth it's using to connect to the router. So maybe Ian, you can elaborate on that a little more.
I'll try. The new iPhones, the 12 are Wi-Fi 6, and that's one of the main reasons why I bought the iPhone 12. It sounds like I'm an Apple guy, like Kevin. Or this is an Apple commercial, but most of the new devices coming out are Wi-Fi 6 capable. When Wi-Fi 6 came out in 2019, there was very few devices that were Wi-Fi 6. So, and even newer laptops, we just bought I bought my Microsoft Surface laptop recently, and it's not Wi-Fi 6 capable. My wife bought a Mac, and that is Wi-Fi 6 capable. So, it's kind of hit and miss on the new stuff, if it is Wi-Fi 6 or not, and that'll be in the specs when you go to purchase it. But I think the thing to understand is that even if your device isn't Wi-Fi 6, you're still going to see benefits, and those benefits are going to be in coverage. The older, I'm just going to call it Wi-Fi 5. Wi-Fi 5 devices or routers, the signal propagation just wasn't great, and we saw that in the field. And what we're seeing with these new Wi-Fi 6 devices is that the propagation of the Wi-Fi signal is just much better throughout the entire home. I think that's basically it in a nutshell. And then the speeds, even if you aren't getting close to a gig speed, the speeds in my experience, and I think what Brian had said, you still are seeing faster speeds than what you saw on that old platform, Wi-Fi 5.
Yeah. And you don't have to trouble yourself or try to go look in some sort of settings to figure out, is it Wi-Fi 6 or not? It just connects to the router.
And I'll say this. I'm a sales guy, so I'm not a technical guy, but I do listen to our technical people, and there's things like MIMO and the number of devices that a router can talk to. So in the old days, it was kind of like you'd have a device that would say, "Hi, here I am," and then the router would say, "Hello," and there's the back and forth, and I think it was limited to the amount of devices that could talk back and forth. Well, with Wi-Fi 6, a lot more devices can talk to each other at the same time. So there's just better efficiency in that at that standpoint. So even if you have a bunch of Wi-Fi 5 devices, like a refrigerator, a light bulb, outlets that are all connected, those things are just going to run smoother on a Wi-Fi 6 network.
Cool. I think we'll come back to some of the questions about contracts and router pricing and how to go through the upgrades, if that's okay. I know there was a couple other questions I want to cycle back to. And one of those was related to TV service that's frustratingly slow, experiencing buffering. And some of those buffering issues can really have a lot to do with that router. I think we've talked about that. There may be other things that are happening kind of within your unit that's causing some of those issues. So certainly as we're there on site, we'll have more time to be able to talk about those issues. And we can provide some more information in advance of that of, what would be the process to go through engaging the next light CSRs to actually test internet speeds, do some things within the unit and figure out what we would need to do on site. But those are all the things that are important when you think about, the service and support that you get from Nextlight and from StreamWise. Five-star reviews are not easy to get. And we measure customer satisfaction at every kind of step of the journey. And we're spectacular in terms of results of how we measure delight and satisfaction. So just remember that when you do pick up the phone and talk with an Nextlight CSR or needs to involve even a StreamWise rep to come out with a Nextlight rep. So we'll make sure to circle back with the person that asked that specific question. I think actually everybody could see the questions, but we'll make sure that we circle back and help troubleshoot what you have going on there.
Yeah, and I would also add too that was kind of what I was bringing up earlier is the Wi-Fi router is just one piece of it. It also depends on the receiver. If you have a 10-year-old laptop or if you have a 5-year-old smart TV that they cut corners in and they didn't put a good Wi-Fi receiver in there, then that's going to cause issues. So that's what I was saying, that we use what we use and install what we use, install what we install for a reason, because, we install little streaming sticks that are 4K and Wi-Fi 6. So you don't have issues like that, at least on your TVs, as far as streaming goes. So
yeah, and Joe, I'll kind of touch on something, and I think it might help answer quite a few of the questions that have been coming through. But so the Village Co-op has a bulk agreement for internet service, and that was for the internet service alone. It does not cover the cost of the router. The routers are available at an additional cost. There's no contract for that. So if you decide that you want to go out and purchase your own router, you can do that. It is a rental program basically for the routers.
Cool.
There was a question, and I think Brian, you already answered this, but if you have devices that and you're trying, let me back up. With it, Wi-Fi 5, you will never realize, or you will never be able to get a gig over wirelessly. You just can't. You need to have a wired connection. And still, I think Kevin would even, I know Kevin, you have a lot of experience in networking. If you want, and if you need a gig to your computer, it should be wired directly from your router to your PC or to your Mac. But with that said, the new Wi-Fi 6 devices, if you have a laptop or a PC that has a Wi-Fi 6 network card, then you will get close to a gig. In our testing here in the office, our network engineering group was seeing speeds of 840 megs wirelessly. That's unheard of wirelessly. So I guess it's really important. The piece I need to drive home is that when you are trying to send a wireless signal through the air, through your home, you have all of these building materials and things that are going to attenuate that signal and slow that signal down. So that's one issue. You have devices that send out, interference And if we could see them, they're invisible, but you'd probably be amazed at how many interfering signals you have going throughout your home. So that's another reason. But the Wi-Fi 6 will get you very darn close to a gig. And yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, cool. And it's certainly something we can kind of revisit when we're there on site on the 10th as well.
But, you know, I think I saw some questions about buffering and those things. And those are usually, they can be a couple different things. And Brian, you can help me out here, but it could be the server that you're trying to access. So Netflix may have a lot of traffic that day, or maybe they're having a network issue on their end. And so that could be causing it. But a lot of times it's something internal. And a lot of times it's the placement of your router and perhaps the type of router you have. So the Wi-Fi 6 devices are going to help that. And if you do have a lot of interference, or if you have a lot of building materials and we need to extend that signal, we have the ability to partner, say, a U4 router with a U4 mesh device that will help propagate that signal throughout the home. So you should not have those buffering issues.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. At the end of the day, obviously, if you're not technical, especially, you know, all this stuff is pretty complicated. It's not just oh, I do this and it magically fixes everything. You know, I mean, it's kind of process elimination. You know, you have awesome gig service coming in from Nextlight, so that's not the issue. The next thing is your wireless router. You know, if you got a Wi-Fi 6 router, then that's not going to be the issue. Scratch that one off. You know, then you walk through and figure out, okay, like what device am I trying to have, you know, stream on? And if that's the only one causing me issues, then it's probably the device that's the issue. And that's something that we can help out on. You know, there's a lot of different things that are going on, but that's why, you know, even if you're not techie, just hire the experts, which is what Nextlight and StreamWise are basically all about, is helping you kind of walk through those issues and those processes and getting them fixed up as best as you possibly can.
You know, I think one example, Brian, I think it was late last year. I have YouTube TV, which is a streaming service, and we were sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden I got this circle and my signal started buffering. So the first thing I did was I picked up my phone and I went to Google and I started searching, and you know, that was working fine. And my other devices, we went around the room and, you know, they were working fine as well. So there's a website called Down Detector, and I was able to go on there, and I saw that there was some network issues, and it actually was a worldwide issue at the time, like probably a DDoS attack from China or Russia or something. But that was the cause of the issue. So yeah, you do. It's not just one thing that's going to fix everything. There could be other issues. And with our Wi-Fi 6 devices, if you rent it from us, our tech support will help you through that. And when Brian and Joe or, you know, StreamWise, those folks, when they're setting up their service, they can also help you as well.
Exactly.
I think Kevin had a question, Joe.
I know we have a handful of TV questions that I want to make sure we answer before we conclude in the next kind of 4 or 5 minutes. And then I went ahead and advanced one of the slides just as a reminder. The 10th will be on site from 1 to 3. Look for more information about that on-site visit from Kevin and the folks there. Brian, I knew this question was going to come up. Because it comes up with a lot of our customers and what's happened with altitude sports and the Colorado Rockies. I know we've got a great blog on our website that Kevin will make sure to send you an email so we can pass this information along. That'll be very helpful. But Brian, if you would go ahead and answer the question about altitude sports and what's happening with the Rockies and other teams.
Yeah, for sure. And to clarify first, we're actually talking about kind of 2 different channels. So Rockies games are actually on AT&T Sportsnet Rocky Mountain, which used to be Root Sports. Altitude Sports has Avs and Nuggets. So just to clarify, there's actually 2 different channels you're talking about there, but they kind of fall under the same domain, being regional sports. So you'll get every single Denver Broncos game totally free off of an antenna, which is awesome. However, regional sports like Rockies, Nuggets, Avs, you know, AT&T Sportsnet Rocky Mountain, Altitude Sports, those are the channels that really are the most expensive channels that kind of make your cable bills go up and up and up. So a lot of people don't realize in the TV industry, it's kind of counterintuitive to the rest of the world, but even though everyone's cutting the cord and getting away from cable and satellite, basically about 8 million people so far this year have dumped cable and satellite. The problem is content prices are going up. And, content prices going up is because of things like Altitude Sports and AT&T Sportsnet Rocky Mountain. And what happens is there's blackouts and there's price increases. The broadcast TV fee is over $20 a month now, just one fee alone on Comcast. So all these kind of crazy things are happening in the TV industry, which really means that your cable bill is never going down, to be real. In the world of at least traditional cable and satellite, Comcast, Dish, DirecTV, that's a huge part of what we do, is help people get away from that. You can get both Altitude and AT&T's Sportsnet Rocky Mountain through separate streaming services, and they're always evolving and kind of moving forward. So just FYI to everybody, we actually have a monthly newsletter for our customers, and we have blogs specifically on those things. I mean, I think it's also kind of just to make sure everybody's clear too, at a high level, what StreamWise Solutions is all about. We're not a service provider. So if you think about us as a business, we exist to help people cut the cord and get away from cable and satellite. And our average customer saves $1,500 a year. Instead of someone trying to cut the cord themselves and piecemeal something together and have it fail and be frustrating and difficult to use, a lot of these things we've been talking about, we just help cut through the confusion of trying to figure out 300 different streaming services and antennas and DVRs and mesh networks and streaming sticks and smart TVs. Basically you just hire us to do it right the first time. So we don't have any skin in the game. We just recommend what's best for you and your situation. And it's just a one and done type of thing. So we just have a one-time charge that's very reasonable. And we're installers. We help you set it up. We train it. You just sit back and relax. We support it. We take it from point A to point Z basically. And we also have the monthly newsletter, and we have a bunch of blog articles. So as an example, on our website, getstreamwise.com, you can actually go to the news section and you'll see a blog article specific to Altitude Sports, and how to get that as an example. Same thing with the Rockies and AT&T Rocky Mountain. So anyway, sorry for the long-winded answer, but it's kind of a complicated problem that requires a little bit longer answer.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if that's something that you're interested in, we're there to, as part of that consultation, talk about what games are televised over the air. You could record them, from those over the air right to the DVR. If that satisfies what you want to watch, great. If it doesn't, we can help you make sure you're making the right choice in the streaming service.
And things are constantly evolving is the other thing. So what's happening now might be totally different by the time the Rockies start playing. I mean, there's actually been talk of a la carte options on how to just get the Rockies direct. So, who knows? Stay tuned, basically.
Yeah. Kevin, I know you raised your hand. I want to come back to you and help you chime in. Thank you.
Okay, real quick. As you can see, there's a meeting of some group here in the community room. So they asked me to cut my time short using the other TV here.
Yeah.
I will say that my computers are hardwired through my own router, and I do achieve the near gig speeds both up and down. My TV, however, which is hardwired, it can only go up to 100 megabits. And so it's limited. So this goes back to, the receivers in the device, whether they're Wi-Fi or hardwired LAN, make all the difference in the world as to the performance of the device.
Noise a little bit.
Cool.
Turned it down a little bit already, Bob.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Kevin, I know we should probably wrap it up so that you don't have competing meetings. I could put out the offer that if there are any questions that came up that we didn't address, I know there were some cost questions. Would it be appropriate just to go ahead and compile those and put some responses in an email and share that out with everyone? Okay, let's do that. I know Ian had a hard stop. You've got some competing things there. I certainly want to make sure everybody knows that if you did ask a question, we've captured that. And we'll put a response to all of those questions in email and circle back with you. Again, know that we'll be there on the 10th and look forward to any further conversations, and certainly don't hesitate. You can go out to the Next Light website and schedule a free TV consultation call today with StreamWise. You can engage any of the CSRs if you are interested in upgrading your routers. All of this is available to you today. Should you want to take the initiative based on what you learned today, and then again, know that we'll be there on the 10th. Kevin, thanks so much for coordinating everything, and I greatly appreciate everybody's time today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.